Man, what a weird end to the week. So not only are we having a pretty major severe weather event starting tomorrow and into Saturday, we also have Dennis Dodd at CBS retiring. Congrats, Mr. Dodd. And we also have the College World 25 cover leak, the deluxe cover. Apparently, there is a mysterious photo shoot taking place in Pasadena, California at the Rules Bowl. So a lot of the views on the top there will briefly cover each of those. One of them not really related to the show as much, but kind of is. Of course, we have our typical show topics here. We got more spring questions for you as spring practices starting for a lot of programs now. We got Georgia on deck, Wisconsin, Texas, Penn State. Got a Scott Frost topic in there. Got a topic that's been more of a broader issue I've been teasing a little bit. It's the Disney Plus problem, especially with Marvel and Star Wars. So we'll dive into the issues, and then predictions versus reality comes to a close with the Buccaneers. Now we could have had a lot more teams we could have done, the college teams, but would have taken us a whole other month to get through those. There's like 30 of them, up and including Tampa. So we had to end the little segment, I guess, at some point, and I figured just do it now because we're going to talk about more about spring stuff and other topics and things I want to bring into the show. So at the moment, we're putting the predictions versus reality to rest. It's not going anywhere. We'll be back this time next year. But, yeah, the Buccaneers will finish it up, and then we'll move on. Again, got a loaded show today. Episode 77 was this past show. My notes say 77. It's actually 78, so that's incorrect. So, anyway, yeah, big show today. A couple things, again, off the top of my head that I wanted to discuss, if you will, talk about, mention. Of course, I've been talking about the severe weather situation that is unfolding in the Mid-South, the Southeastern U.S., the Western Midwest, if you will. It's going to be pretty bad. It starts tomorrow. There's a moderate risk for, like, the St. Louis area, Western Kentucky, Illinois, northeastern Arkansas, Western Tennessee, like the Memphis area, St. Louis, Paducah, Kentucky, places I've somewhat been to before. Not because I'm a storm chaser, I've just been there before, but yeah, that's a big event. Big event starts tomorrow. More of a damaging wind, hail, somewhat of a conditional tornado threat. I'm not gonna teach you guys, I don't want to give you guys a whole course on meteorology 101 because that's not what the show is. But that's concerning for tomorrow. But the big day is Saturday for specifically the southeastern region. So like a bunch of, in fact, all of Alabama, Mississippi, the adjacent states, Louisiana, Florida, Western Florida, not where I live, and then all the way up to the Canadian border. It's going to be pretty bad at Saturday. The models have indicated it. It's going to be more of a supercellular mode. There's some questions about, will there be, the leftover storms from tomorrow? Could it be, a massive thunderstorm complex to potentially, calm things down a little bit in terms of like overrunning the atmospheric conditions and maybe limiting the afternoon stuff? But it doesn't look like it at the moment, according to the models. So that's a question that's starting to get answered a little bit. But it's going to be rough. Thankfully, here in Jacksonville and much of Florida, we will be watching this from afar tomorrow and Saturday, though this will move into my area. Of course, the threat will diminish a little bit. The better dynamics, the better support for like a major severe weather event is not going to be in place here on the East Coast, particularly the further south you are. But still, even here in Jacksonville, we're going to get some strong storms on Sunday, but not the same thing they're getting to our west. So we'll be watching that. At least I will, with curiosity from afar here. So that in itself is going to be a very active day. Looks like the page updated here. I'm not really sure if that page updated or something on the. I'm looking at the SBC Outlook. Yeah, I may have just reloaded or something, but yeah, it happens sometimes. Anyway, that little first topic, if you will, off the top. But as I mentioned, Dennis Dodd at CBS, the great Dennis Dodd, one of the best reporters out there. He's been around for around more of a majority of my lifetime, and before that, he's broken a lot of major stories, conference realignment, major news stuff. Dennis is retiring in about a month or so, April 10th, I believe. And on Twitter earlier, sad to see him go, but he's had a long career. It's been great. Congratulations, Dennis. I know you're not watching this, but as someone who has just got into this business a little bit, and as someone who has followed your work behind the scenes before the show, Even I know people like Cover 3, Josh Pate holds you to pretty high standards, so never met you before. But yeah, it's going to be a sad day when he retires in a month or so, and like he's earned it. But he broke that. He broke that around noon, before noon or so, a little bit before the show started. So how about that? And also, was going to add this in as an actual topic, but we have so much stuff to talk about today. It's going to be one of these busy shows. Could go for over an hour. The College Football 26 cover, deluxe cover. We don't know what the official cover, the normal cover, but the cover got leaked. Tubby Light on Instagram, formerly known as Bring NCAA Football Back on Instagram and on YouTube, a guy who I follow personally, never met him before. Hopefully, maybe we'll have him on the show at some point, especially when the new version of the game comes out, the second of the new, I guess, run of the game, the new release that comes out this summer. Could work on that at some point, but anyway, he got hold of a Instagram story that some of his followers somehow got access to, and they sent him a screenshot of it and revealed a lot of interesting things. I'm not going to like everything because I think eventually I'll do, like I said, a separate topic on this, but confirms a lot of things that we thought were going to be in the game. Real coaches at the photo shoot. Kirby Smart's obviously there. I think James Franklin's there. Those are the two ones that were obvious. As more and more folks were, looking at it like the Zapruder film, the JFK assassination reference there, but sort of looking into it like the Zapruder film, you notice Lane Kiffin's there as well. Ryan Day is also supposedly there. You can kind of see him a little bit. A lot of players, a lot of mascots. Puddles, the duck, Oregon's mascots are there. I think Georgia's mascot is there. I think the Texas. I think the mascot version of Bevo, not the real life Bevo, but the mascot character is there. I think some fans, even more players that either have been identified or not been identified. But I think this confirms that real coaches will probably be in the game. That's been something that I think EA has talked about even this time last year when we first got our first look at the game, and there was the big ESPN article that came out, and there was like a Q&A thing. One of the questions was, will real coaches be in the game? Sounds like they're going to. I mean, this time last year, like Lane Kiffin was talking during one of his spring press conferences, I believe, and he said, yeah, I'll be in the game for free if I really wanted to. But of course, legally you couldn't. But now with EA being able to, I guess, give the coaches an extra money, I guess, or whatever deal, I guess they'll get revealed. I'm assuming soon, is they're doing that now. I would imagine some sort of a marketing campaign will start now. Of course, we're in the spring now, but yeah, that got leaked yesterday. Very exciting stuff there. As a fan of College Football 25, I like it. It's a good baseline, good game. I'm still playing it. Well, that's what I'll be playing. There'll be some other games I do enjoy as well, but College Football 25 definitely the more primary sports game I've been playing ever since it came out. It's a great game. Is it flawed? Yeah, it's flawed. There's a lot of things in there that I wish you'll clean up for the next game and improve upon and add some stuff. But for a baseline, it coming back, it got the job done. In the words of Josh Pate, they took care of us. Here I am turning this into a College Football 25 review. But anyway, stuff up the top there. Before we get into the meat of the show here, that's like for using the sandwich metaphor, that's like the bread. I'm never getting into the meat and cheese now. I'm going to get some water here, make sure the voice is ready to go, and then we'll get started. Like I said, it's going to be probably be a pretty long show. We have multiple topics here. Could go for an hour, could go for less than an hour. We'll see. We are already 8 minutes into the show, too, so it's going to be probably one of these longer shows. So we've been doing this sort of spring question segment. Well, I think we'll do one more next week. Some teams I actually left off here. I think LSU's one. Some other teams I probably could add into here. We'll have to do some more research on that. But yeah, LSU, I don't know why I forgot them. That's weird. Have I done Clemson yet? I have to double check. I think I may have done Clemson already, but LSU for sure. I haven't. For some reason, I forgot them, I think. So we'll add them in at some point. I think A&M I haven't added in here at all either. I don't think. So yes, A&M, Clemson, some teams I'm missing. Big 12 teams even. Could be on there. So we'll probably do one more of these segments, then we'll sort of transition to more of like the spring reports and other topics and whatnot. But spring team questions for spring, part 3. Again, ongoing segment we've been doing for a couple of weeks now, or not a couple of weeks, but a couple of shows. First up here, Georgia. I haven't talked about them a little bit. Question I have for them, much like everyone. Running back situation. Running backs have been okay, I guess, but last year was the abysmal. They didn't have the best rushing output they've had in past years under Kirby, despite the fact they won the SEC in a year where you had some limitations at quarterback, potentially, maybe limitations on the offensive line, defensive line. Still a good year, though. I mean, as a Georgia fan, you don't like the fact that you lost to, Ole Miss and lost to Bama the way you did. Doesn't feel good, but you beat Texas twice in a row, so that's something to ponder, I guess. Quarterback situation, again, who's going to step up there? They've recruited really well. Again, Georgia, top 3, top 5% recruiting. So it's not, they're like, I don't know what's the right word here. I guess like sieving. They're not like foaming at the mouth for talent, but I'd like to see a running back step up in spring. I'm sure we get those practice supports here, if not now, if not any sooner. But that's one question for Georgia. So certainly some other ones. Of course, quarterback would be an obvious one, but there's good options there. Stockton's still there. Gunnar Stockton. You have Ryan Puglisi, a guy that Josh Peoples pretty high on, even higher than Raiola to a certain extent before they lost him a couple years ago in recruiting. But Georgia running back situation, would like to see one step up. It's a long time from now. They can obviously go into the second transfer window and get someone. But that would be a position, I think, if I were a Georgia fan, I would be reasonably curious about. Because, again, they have not been very efficient at running the football at all. Wisconsin have next here on my list here. The question I have is, can Billy Edwards lift the offense? This is not necessarily geared towards the question, but it is related to Wisconsin, more of a bigger picture here. I get the sense, and I kind of feel the same way too, is that there's some genuine concerns about Luke Fickell. It's not gone well there. They have struggled. They missed out on a bowl game the first time in 20 plus years. So it'll be like the majority of my life they made a bowl game, and then this past season, they have struggled on offense. They brought in Phil long ago. They're going to be running like the dairy rate stuff, and that was the big talking point. It sounded like Luke Fickell's a political candidate, but that was sort of the platform he was riding himself on with getting this job, and revolutionizing the offense and getting it out of like the dark ages, if you will, and not running the out of information all the time. But the personnel wasn't that great. They've not done well in the portal with quarterbacks. I mean, Mordecai was okay. Tyler Van Dyke, when he was healthy before he got hurt, albeit small sample size, was so there's genuine concern there. I think I was listening to Cover 3 yesterday with Bud, Tom, and Danny. Of course, Chip is here in Florida, actually, with the folks in Fort Lauderdale for basketball coverage. But they brought up Wisconsin because they were doing their hot seat pressure situation, I guess, in the Big Ten. And, of course, Fickell gets brought up. And I think all 3 of them, believe that he is the coach that has the most pressure, job security pressure. I've mentioned before, and I'll say it again here. I'm more of a straight shooter. I don't say things I don't do on this show. You don't hear me scream, call people names, call for someone's job if it's not warranted. Like, I don't do any of that type of stuff. I don't get into hype. I don't sit here and act like I'm an expert, even though I have a show, but I didn't play college football, and my personal belief is that I don't believe in calling out coaches' jobs. I just don't. It just feels weird having watched coaches' interviews and stuff like that. I don't know. It just feels. I don't know. It doesn't feel good. Now, of course, if it's bad, then sure. But if it's a coach like someone like the punching bag everyone seems to like is James Franklin, I'm not calling for a job. I'm not gonna go full Mark Mangini on first things first, saying that the Penn State officials should have a meeting with James Franklin and say, hey, maybe we should bring in someone in here who can do a little bit better than you. I thought, probably someone on the show before, I thought that was dumb that he said that. It was pretty much, frankly, a little stupid because that's not real. That's not real life. And that's, of course, Mangini's a former NFL head coach. He doesn't watch college football. He's even admitted it before. So, okay. But I do understand there's genuine concern about Luke Fickell. There's worry about, is he going to be able to make it this is going to be year 4, so I guess year 5. There's genuine concern there. It's not going well. The offense has been sort of sluggish to get going. They have missed out on recruiting big time, especially getting kids locally from the Wisconsin, Midwest region, because now like programs like Iowa traditionally has competed well with them recruiting without Illinois, with Brett Bielema being up there. It's just not gone well. Again, I'm not calling for his job. Hopefully, Personally, I'd like to see it work out. I thought it was a good hire, but as much like with the guy who we'll talk about here in a little bit, Scott Frost, ironically in the same conference, school of Nebraska, the slam dunk hire may not always be what you perceive it to be. Everyone thought Scott Frost when we went to UCF, we left UCF the first time to go to his alma mater in Nebraska. Everyone thought, oh man, slam dunk hire. He was going to revolutionize offense. He's going to bring in the South Florida pipeline. Didn't work out. Unfortunately, and I hate to say that, I don't have joy. I'm not jumping up and down and holding a ticker tape parade for guys getting fired. I don't do that. I don't have joy in saying I don't sit here and smile and go get a glass of Hennessy and drink that on air. Like, you're not going to see me do that. You're not going to see me celebrate someone getting fired. It sucks that this is happening to Wisconsin, and we don't talk a lot about Wisconsin on here. I think we should, actually. But it sucks. I wanted him to succeed. It's not happening. It is what it is. I can be upset about it. There's nothing I can do about it. But it'll be interesting to see with the new offense. They're retooling some stuff. Billy Edwards coming in from Maryland. Can he elevate the offense? Can he be the reason why they are a little more successful than they have been in the past? I don't know. Hopefully, they have spring. They have fall camp to figure it out. Because their schedule, by the way, Wisconsin, if I recall correctly, it's one of the toughest in the country. Like low key, it's the top 5 toughest schedule in the country. I think if you really break it down, and of course I'm not like Josh Pate, who has his own rating system and computer algorithm. But I mean, like, look at this. So they get 2 G5s, Bama on the road, Michigan, Iowa, Ohio State, Oregon. That's all those games, by the way, in a row. I don't think there's a bye week in between that. Levels off a little bit, but man, that's a really tough schedule. But then I hear, oh, it's expectations, and people just disregard the schedule being tough. Like, for example, if you switched out Missouri's schedule with Wisconsin's, they switched schedules, Wisconsin would be a 8-win, 7-win team. And then Missouri would probably be like a 5-win, 6-win team. So there's a difference there. It's all about the schedule. It's not about always the talent. It's always about the head coaching ability. Sometimes it's the mezzo things, the small scale things really determine your results. And I think for Luke Fickell, it's not been good enough. And unfortunately, they've been dealt with injuries and bad recruiting tactics. And maybe you're overhauling the offense a little bit too much. Just not been good enough up there. And I wanted it to succeed when it happened. This is, of course, before this show, because he was hired, 4 years ago now. I wanted him to succeed. I thought it was a good enough hire. I thought he did a fairly good job at Cincinnati. A very good G5 team now in the quote-unquote Power 4. It's not been good enough for them. And I think Billy Edwards coming in as a transfer, it's third time's a charm, I guess. I don't know. We'll see. Texas, pretty simple. Could be on a lot of different avenues of Texas. They lose some guys on the defensive line, some guys on the offensive side of the football, a lot of pieces moving around. But I think the big one's Arch Manning. Everyone's very excited about Arch Manning. It's Arch Manning. He was a 4 or 5-star kid. A lot of folks were pissed off. They didn't play his first year, but then that wasn't the plan to begin with. Then folks start questioning Sark. Oh, Sark's stupid. He's an idiot. Well, he went to the playoff twice, and that's the first time in any of our lifetimes, or at least my lifetime, that Texas has been consistent like this, or at least in the past 15 years. So I don't want you guys, it's a classic shut up when you're talking to me. Arch Manning, that's the question I have. Is he ready? I think he's ready. Again, he's a highly talented dual threat guy, has all the intangibles. Of course, he's in the Manning family, which is not like a prerequisite. Hard word to say when you're talking like that, but it's not a prerequisite. It's not like something that's in the U.S. Constitution that requires you to be in someone's hygiene bloodline or whatever. So he changed the kid's name out from Manning to Arch Peter. He's still a good quarterback. I don't care what his name is. He has all the intangibles. I have all the faith in Sark. They're gonna be a good team. Their schedule again, just like last year, it's for at least conference wise, it's the same opponents, just the venues change. They have Ohio State week 1. Ironically, both of these team programs are bringing in new quarterbacks, at least new starters, and replacing a lot of good talent. But I think the Arch Manning one's going to be the one that everyone's focused on, and clearly I'm focused on it too, because I think the kid's going to be pretty good. Gonna have a lot of faith in Sark. Their schedule's somewhat tough, but not tough enough. It's not like Wisconsin's schedule or a Florida schedule. They do play Florida, being Texas. They go on the road for that one. So that's a question I think everyone's wondering up there, and where we live in Texas. Either it's Laz Buddy, Texas, Austin, maybe not in Fort Worth or Lubbock or Bryan College Station, but mostly everyone in Texas is focused on that. Last one for this spring team questions for the spring is Drew Allar in offense, Penn State. Yeah, I've already touched on the whole James Franklin spiel. I'm not doing that again. We'll be here for 4 hours. It's just a simple question. Can Drew Allar in the offense, are they can they step up? Can they improve a little bit? They were fine last year. I think Drew Allar sneakily had a very good year. Unfortunately, everyone's going to remember the playoff game, which, of course, everyone's going to tell me, and folks, my personal life, I've done this before, where they're like, oh, so you're saying the playoff doesn't matter? Well, yeah, duh, it does matter. Now, for me personally, I don't know, as a traditional fan, do I value the regular season more than the playoff? Yeah, I do. But I still think the playoff's important, clearly. I mean, you win the national championship and get the accolades and stuff. But I do agree from a generic standpoint that, yes, there needs to be some improvement. Again, you have Andy Kolnicki being there for a second year. You have Drew Allar, second full year as a starter. Kaytron Allen and Nick Singleton back again. They could have very easily gone in this draft and then top 10 draft picks. They're back as well. You lose Tyler Warren. It sucks, but I think they can, especially in the spring portal, with the spring window when it opens up in a couple weeks or in a month or so, they should be reasonably assume players in the spring window to get better receiver talent there to create more depth. There's certainly some guys there not stepped up yet. Through the recruiting, we'll see. But just, general question there. But I think there's a path there. With him, Allar, second year as a starter. You have Kolnicki being there, second full year. I mean, Kolnicki's not dumb. I mean, if you go watch the film with, him and Jalen Daniels at Kansas, Jalen Daniels at Kansas just forgot to read the offense once the OC left, Kolnicki. It's, almost incredible. I remember watching that game against UNLV when I was at a bar in Charlotte. When I was there for the Chargers Panthers game, I'm just sitting there. It's that Friday night. I'm like, wow, that's incredible how far Daniels could have. Kansas has fallen. Now, granted, there's a lot of injuries and stuff, but just the basic necessity to read an offense is man, that shows to show you how some of these coaches are pretty important sometimes. And in that season for Kansas and Daniels last year, but yeah, I mean. Kolnicki being there, second year, Allar, second year as a starter. Hopefully, again, you'll get some more pieces on offense. This could be fun. I'm not sitting here, again, acting like Mark Mangini on First Things First, calling for James Franklin's job or having quote-unquote conversations, whatever that means. It's just they have a lot of talent coming back, and they should be back kind of where they were last year, or even more. So that's kind of the bottom line here, I guess, for a lot of people, but then again, everyone's going to be putting James Franklin on the hot seat for unnecessarily, but whatever. At least from a standpoint of job security. I mean, just outside of complete scandal, he's not going anywhere. I don't know where these quote-unquote experts get that from, but whatever. But yeah, big spring questions there. Again, we'll do a fourth part of this probably on the Tuesday show. Of course, why would it be for us to talk about college football during all this basketball stuff? Yeah, I know I've been paying attention to the Cooper Flag situation, him getting hurt earlier, but we're not a college basketball show. We're college football, and then some Marvel and Star Wars stuff, and some NFL, particularly the Buccaneers. What I'm going to do is get some water, and then we will move on to the next segments. Got a good clip here on the show. We may actually finish under an hour, which is shocking, just based on how top-heavy the beginning of the show is going to be with the off the tops. Good pace here. I'm liking where the show's going. You may have heard that on the podcast or on the YouTube stream, but I was getting some water. Got an ice cube. I just ended up just chewing it, which is good. It keeps the mouth cold and everything. It keeps the voice parched too. So, like I mentioned a lot, if you're doing long form podcasting, have a full bottle of water. You can hear it. It's my Yeti cup here. Make sure you have water. It keeps the voice parched, and you should be drinking it anyway. I think it's I recommended a gallon a day. Anyway, enough of health Four Verticals Health podcast. So hopefully you guys remember, but you guys know or remember that Scott Frost is back at UCF. He's back. He went away from coaching after the Nebraska fiasco and everything. That just didn't happen up there in Lincoln. Comes back to UCF after taking off a couple of years, doing probably what a lot of coaches probably should be doing. Kevin Someone kind of goes away for a little bit. Now he's back at UCF. So my question here, I did this with Rich Rod a couple of days ago. Of course, lo and behold, I do that, and then the story about him banning TikTok comes out. I'm like, whatever. Not relevant to this show. I'm not really going to bring it up, and here I am bringing it up. And I'm not doing a full segment on that because, frankly, I don't really care. It's not relevant to the show. Of course, to do that, and that happens. But what about Scott Frost? Can Scott Frost win at UCF? He's done it before. You can go to the Wikipedia page, where I have it pulled up here. 6-7 after they went, 1-11 or 0-12 or whatever. Yeah, it was 0-12. 6-7, 13-0. Bam, leaves. Nebraska, no winning season at all. All losing seasons, never really made it to a bowl game at all. Could have in 2020, but I think they declined. Only season they got close, by the way, in Nebraska was his second year when they went 5-7. That's it. After that, it was 6 combined wins. After that, his full seasons, if you will, quote unquote, as a coach, and then final year finished with 1. He only had 16 wins there, and I think doesn't Matt Rhule already have 16 wins or whatever? He's been there already for 2 years, so he's already club stats. How about that? But he's back at UCF now. Of course, a lot of things have changed since then. They're not American anymore. They have new facilities and stuff that are opening up there in Orlando, which is not obviously far from Jacksonville. But can he win there? Can he win at UCF? Yes, he can. He's done it before and certainly can do it again. And I think the thing that really gets to people about someone like Scott Frost or whatever, some of these failed coaches, they fail at one place, they get fired, they take a year off or so, and then they come back. Everyone thinks, this guy can't do it anymore. He's took off 20 years. So now you're saying that he got stupid over 2 years of not coaching, or 3 years, whatever it was, or whatever. The same thing they're probably saying about Dan Mullen too. Like Dan Mullen and Scott Frost, at least to me, did again what someone like Kevin Sumlin should have done. I think I agree with Josh Payne on this. Someone should have taken some time off and not go back into coaching immediately after A&M. He doesn't do that. He goes to Arizona and whoop. And I think what Frost and Mullen did was very, very smart. They got fired their respective jobs, pretty high-profile jobs, Florida and Nebraska. Took some time off, didn't really go back into coaching. For Mullen's sake, he went to TV. I think Frost did go back into coaching when I was like a head coach, so at least he didn't do that. Let himself cool off a little bit, maybe learn some valuable lessons and whatnot, maybe talk to some people and whatnot, go into some of these coaching conventions. Now here they are. I still think you can win there. Again, I don't think he got stupid over the last 10 or so years. It feels like 10 years, but really not officially 10. But about these 7 or 8 years he's been away from Orlando and UCF that he's gone stupid. He's not. I think he's still a very smart coach. I think he's still a fairly decent play caller as a offensive-minded coach. Part of that Chip Kelly, Mark Helfrich coaching tree a little bit. Of course, he coached at Oregon for a little bit. I still think he has to have some success there. And it's in a conference, by the way, where anything is possible in the Big 12. Like from most of these teams, with the exception of maybe like a Cincinnati or Oklahoma State, unfortunately, or maybe a Kansas or West Virginia to a certain extent, maybe this year, that every single team not named those could win the conference. Arizona, Arizona State, BYU, Cincinnati, Baylor, Houston, even with I'm forgetting his name. Yeah, Willie Fritz. Like any number of these teams, Kansas State, TCU, Texas Tech, a team I'm very high on, and Jerry Maguire. It's an open conference. There is no like powerful program that is like ultra successful. Like maybe Oklahoma State historically, like maybe Houston in some years, but it's like there's no major power player there. Like ever since OU and Texas left a couple years ago, there's a power vacuum there, and I think any one of these teams can win the conference. I don't know if they can take it over fully, but they can win it most years. Like I said last week, I think Rich Rod, if he can get that South Florida pipeline going, bring in extra money with him. I'm assuming Pat McAfee probably will be donating a lot more money now, or at least he will be because he's an alumni and he played under him. Similar thing as Scott Frost, with him being back there, his expertise of running an offense and taking what is now an XG5 team and having success there, of course he can do it. And like I mentioned when he got hired back in, late December or January, I think it's when the segment. It was after Christmas, but like I mentioned back when he was hired, when we discussed it initially, he's learned a lot of valuable lessons. He's had enough time to kind of cool off, think about, what didn't work in Nebraska and, what can I apply those lessons to taking another job. I think that's valuable for someone. I think it is valuable to learn your lessons, to understand, yes, it went really horribly at one place. That doesn't mean it can't change elsewhere. It's the classic have-not versus have-not. It has not happened for Scott Frost, where he's had sustained success. Doesn't mean it cannot happen. He just has not done it yet. I think he can do it. I mean, I could be wrong, but I look at their schedule for next year, and it's not a complete breakdown of their schedule, but they get a couple. I mean, they get a G5 team, an actual G5 on it's a Thursday, I believe. Yeah, Thursday, because they open their season every year on Thursday, it seems like. I think that actually started just recently. FCS. And then Bill Belichick and North Carolina come to town. A sentence I never thought I'd be saying, but yes. A reminder, Bill Belichick is the head coach of North Carolina. And he is going to Orlando, Florida, a place that he's probably been to before for coaching conventions and the Pro Bowl. Never as a head coach. I don't think he's ever done that before, so that's rare. Then they get both Kansas schools back-to-back, looks like, and then they finish off with Cincinnati, West Virginia, Baylor, and Oklahoma State. But, I think Scott Frost can win there. Again, it's going to take some time. Of course, his connections there with, South Florida region. He did a pretty good job of getting players there, re-induce enthusiasm, or just, I don't know what I just said there, bringing in more enthusiasm. That's what I was trying to say. Back into the program. Of course, the sports changed a little bit now with the transfer portal, and I think that's one thing he can benefit from. It's this whole thing, and it's all it is just reconnecting with kids from South Florida, like Central South Florida, who may have, gone on to some of the other schools up north, because Florida's the southernmost state, to come back down to Florida. Maybe they're, 2s or 3s on some of these major programs like Ohio State, Georgia, A&M, and say, hey, you come down to UCF, closer to home, parents don't have to travel as much, at least for home games. It sucks when you have to go to Morgantown every single year or every other year. It sucks when you have to go to, Cincinnati, Ohio every other year, but at least travel's more reasonable. You're back closer to home. It's good weather. New facilities opening up and whatnot. And look, nothing against Gus Malzahn. I think he was doing a fairly decent job. Up until last year, where I don't know what happened. It's like the wheels kind of fell off, and I'm not really sure what happened there at all. I don't know. They did lose a lot of guys in the portal, which is to expect. I mean, a lot of those key pieces on last year's team. Guys like Lee Hunter. He was a former Auburn player, by the way. Interestingly, so now he's on the move. He's at Texas Tech now. A good gift for them. Got some decent guys in the portal. Tavon Jackson, I believe that. Apologies for mispronouncing the name. The backup quarterback from Indiana, who came in after came in a couple of times last year to start. Yeah, he started a couple of games after their starter got hurt. It was the guy from James Madison. So they got some good pieces there. Again, Scott Frost, he much prefers having the dual threat guy. I believe, is KJ Jefferson still there? I haven't checked. I believe he actually is still there. Let me check. I don't believe he left. Okay, so he graduated. Okay. Figured that was the case, I think. Unless he went in the portal. I don't know. I don't know. I guess he entered the portal or left. I have no idea what happened to him, but he's not on the team anymore. But so you have to replace him. It was a bit of a disappointment. In fact, major disappointment for me. I thought he was really, really good last year. I thought he was a good fit, but of course, as I say, and I was continuing to say, I guarantee everything will get in the portal will work, but there's some pieces there. Obviously, it's going to take some time to get the players that he needs to be successful, but he can be. It's just he hasn't shown it yet, at least in the past couple of years, but he's done it before, and I think he can do it again. like I say, didn't just get dumb over the past 5 years or so, or however long he's not been back. But and you're going to see very excited for maybe not this year materially, but the future, what it could look like for Frost Company. Who knows? Maybe he could do even better than we did the first time around. So, how about that? A little Scott Frost talk there in UCF. Oh boy, here's the big segment. I've been wanting to do this for a couple of days since I brought it up on Tuesday's show. So I mentioned this on Tuesday. And by the way, I know Daredevil episode 3 came out. Not much really happened to take effect. No, we got the White Tiger character and whatever with the spoilers, he gets killed promptly. It was good. It was a good episode, but not a whole lot of major things happen. Of course, we're getting closer to seeing John Bernthal Punisher again, who will be appearing in the series. Obviously, that's obvious, but he hasn't showed up in the show yet, but he will. But anyway, I brought this up on Tuesday about this overarching Disney Plus problem, and I figured probably should do a segment on this, and we are, and I have a lot of things here that are some of the issues I've had with Disney Plus, and some of the ones that have been pretty obvious. I just said a lot of multiple obviouses, or obvious I guess, but just noticed a lot of problems that I think are things that I have noticed personally, but things that the general public has caught on as well. And look, I'm not saying Disney Plus is a bad product. It's not, or at least on general sense, it's not. I think it's good. Of course, with the streaming wars and everything, everyone has their own streaming app, and now everything's no longer on Netflix now. Because back in the day, I can't believe I'm actually saying that. Back 10 or so years ago, when I was a youth, go on Netflix, you get Captain America, the first Avenger on there. You'll have the Avengers on either there or Amazon Prime, and then all this and that and everything. So you go to have some of these Marvel shows and some of these Star Wars movies would be on mostly. Actually, I don't know if the Star Wars stuff was on streaming. Actually, I don't think it was. I think it was mostly on TNT or whatever. Because that's weird. TNT being a Warner Brothers CBS company is running movies and stuff that were either acquired because of the Disney acquisition of Lucasfilm, or movies made under the Disney umbrella, airing on a Warner Brothers channel. So how about that? But that's how all these major Lucasfilm and Marvel content was being viewed. It was either on Amazon Prime, early versions or early days of Amazon Prime, and then Netflix, or on TNT. That was kind of it. That was the only way you can watch those movies, unless you bought the physical DVDs or whatever, which are not really relevant anymore. But of course, now I have the streaming services and everything under the Disney umbrella, especially Disney Plus, is mostly available. Some things you cannot watch. If you know, you know, but there's certain things you can't watch on there. There's not every single old Mickey Mouse cartoon is on there. I think there's a good majority of them are on there, I believe, but not all of them are on there. Of course, all of the pirate movies, Pirates of the Caribbean movies, and all the Marvel movies, some of the Spider-Man stuff's on there too now. So everything's all there now. But I think with the bigger issue here with Disney Plus is not the content that's on there. The content on there, it's fine. If you want to watch, I don't know, Avengers Age of Ultron, which is, in my opinion, one of my favorite movies, and it's very underrated. I think not everyone's saying that now, but we weren't saying that 10 years ago. Anyway, that's a topic for a future show. But if you wanted to watch Avengers Age of Ultron, you could do that. No problem with that. I'm no problem with being able to watch that. My issue with Disney Plus is their shows. But for Marvel and Star Wars, I think for Marvel, there's a lot more. It's a lot more notice because they're not. I think there's one of the problems with Disney Plus. I think it's the idea. Well, actually, I think we'll circle back to that. But the first problem I have here on my list I have my list pulled up and I'm even looking at it. The first problem with Disney Plus is the shorter seasons. This is both for Marvel and Star Wars. The seasons are short, 6 episodes, 8 episodes. You don't usually get 9 or so plus episodes. I think Andor and Daredevil are only ones that have gotten that luxury of that happening. That's a problem. Some of these shows, like Ahsoka, and most of these shows I do for the most part I think Ahsoka is really, really good. First 2 Mando seasons are good. And the Marvel shows actually not so much. Or WandaVision is fine. Loki was pretty good, but those seasons are 8 or 6 episodes. They're really, really short. They're not long. And I think from a more of an issue of Marvel, because I think Star Wars doing with what they did with Clone Wars and stuff, they're more used to the TV side of things. They weren't necessarily new to this when Disney Plus first came around. Marvel was though, and you can make the argument, or you can say, well, what about the Netflix stuff? Well, that's Netflix stuff. Marvel proper, like Kevin Feige and those folks over there in Marvel proper, not the Netflix people, they were not used to making TV shows. They were used to making movies. And look, that's totally fine if you want to apply some of the same logic to a certain extent, but the shorter season format, particularly with Marvel, has just not worked. The shows are disjointed. It feels, and that's another thing I bring up too, the story feels rushed. The pacing's really off. Some episodes are not don't necessarily feel that well made versus some others. And it just doesn't last long enough. Again, I think shows like Andor, Daredevil, to a certain extent, they do that pretty well. They actually utilize the ability to have more episodes, like 9 episodes, 12 episodes, particularly of Andor. It's like, that's actually what I think they should be doing more of, more long-form content. But instead, they have to do these 6-episode crap that's like really, really short. Now, thankfully, they've gone away from that. In the past couple of years, they've moved on from the 6-episode stuff to more 8 episodes and 9. But still, it's like I don't think that's even enough. Another thing I just mentioned too, the budget not being properly allocated. You notice this a lot, especially at Marvel. I think for Star Wars, it's a little bit more different, but you still notice it there too. I mean, Obi-Wan, like filming on a soundstage, the budget's kind of wonky. Like it's both for Marvel and Star Wars. It feels like all these Disney Plus shows, again, even the ones I like, it's almost like they save all of their money for like the last like 2 episodes, and the rest of the episodes are either decent enough quality, passable to this looks like something you would watch on ABC. Like it's just, and that's not saying a whole lot because that's bad. And this is a streaming service. It's not some, cheap streaming service from, I don't know, like India. No offense to my Indian friends or anyone over in that part of the world, but it's like, it's not some cheap Bollywood thing. It's like, it shouldn't be this hard. Again, we're not building the Burj Khalifa, the World Trade Center. It's not that hard. It's in my opinion to like properly allocate the funding. You shouldn't be having your final 2 episodes of any of these shows being the best quality. It just shouldn't. You should be allocating that a little more better. Again, perfect example of this was Falcon and Winter Soldier. The opposite, in fact. First episode, sequence with the skydiving stuff, amazing. That's like very, very close to movie quality. Then like the last freaking 5 episodes, it's like this is something I'll be watching on like a knockoff streaming service. It's like they're like having conversations and behind a fence, and they're talking in a weird like empty room, which looks like it was like shot in like New York or whatever, in like a alley. Or it's like, what? Like it boggles the mind how they can't do this properly. Again, I know they're not supposed to be movies. They can't obviously, it's not like a movie where like all of the budget's toned on to like one thing. This is like multiple things, like multiple segments where money has to be distributed evenly. But it's not even like they can even do that. And again, like I mentioned, it's not that hard. It's not like you're building the Burj Khalifa, the World Trade Center, or the Petronas Towers. They're not doing that. It shouldn't be that hard, at least to me. And they have not done a good job doing that. Another thing, this is more of a Marvel issue than Star Wars. I think with Star Wars, they're using mostly like TV-based characters. Like with, for example, with Ahsoka, it's mostly the Rebels crew, which is from a animated show. You have the Mandalorian, again, using mostly characters from the animated shows or just new exclusive characters. But for Marvel particularly, or this is mostly Marvel, using smaller scale characters. Again, like, it just boggles the mind. Again, I get it. Some of these bigger movie actors, you cannot bring them in. For example, like the Loki series. I know you can't bring in Chris Hemsworth to make a cameo or whatever because it's going to cost too much and the budget's going to balloon. But it's just like, it's Marvel. You shouldn't be relying on B-list, D-list characters to carry these shows. And I think as Marvel fans, or at least fans who are not used to this TV way of doing things, again, I think that's another problem too, where it's like, I feel like the Marvel fan base is just not collectively used to having TV shows or used to watching TV shows. The Daredevil stuff's a little bit different. That's exclusively of Netflix, and that's a studio that's more used to doing TV stuff, whereas Marvel proper is not. That's the problem. They're not used to doing that type of stuff, and they're trainees in like movies and stuff, and they're using B or D level characters. It's like, as a Marvel fan that was used to watching all the movies, and you go into these Disney Plus shows and go, huh, that's kind of cool. So they're doing exactly the same stuff in the movies, but now on TV. No, they're not. They're not doing that. That's not what they are. They're just cheaper versions. They have to use TV actors. No, nothing against TV actors, but it's not the same quality. And I think for some people who didn't realize that, and now they do realize that it's not the same quality, and it's not going to be consistent. And again, it's also ties back to the whole not being able to allocate the budget properly, and that's just for Marvel particularly, that's an issue. Using B-level characters, not being able to include these high-level characters, it's a problem. It really is. And I think for a show like Secret Invasion, which mostly, again, I get it. You bring in Sam Jackson, it's a lot of money for the VFX stuff, but it's like you're not using the characters you should be using for that storyline. If you know the storyline from the comics, the storyline in the comics involves the Avengers, but you couldn't use the Avengers for a Disney Plus show because that'll balloon the budget. You don't have enough money for that. They don't release the money allocated to that. It's not enough. You can't do that for a TV show, and I think that's one of the. Again, for Marvel, that's an issue. For Star Wars, not really, because again, they're mostly using like B-level characters that were already pre-established, and that's not an issue there. But and they're the focus of the show. Now, of course, they've had movie characters pop in like C-3PO and Luke and whatnot, but they're not the stars of the show. That's not what the show's based off of. The show's based off of the other either characters from previous TV shows or characters created exclusively for that. But for Marvel, it's different stories. Again, Marvel, the MCU was mostly a film-based universe, and now it's moving on. Since it's moved to TV, everyone's perception has been warped. I mean, a lot of folks got fooled into thinking this is going to be movie quality instead of realizing, oh, it's actually TV quality, and it's not as good, and it's cheaper versions of the movies. So that's another issue. Star Wars is not out of this completely because they have their own problem, which is the volume. Look, I think the volume is a good idea. I think what Favreau and Filoni did with having this, the stagecraft, it's like an AI sort of dome thing. It's like one of those IMAX theaters, which you can change the background. You can do some very minimal set work, and it's really easy. It's cheaper to work on. That's fine. And I think there's times where it looks pretty good. I think for the Ahsoka series, I think for season 1, it's actually pretty good, actually, most of the time. But then there's instances with like Kenobi and parts of The Mandalorian where it's just like volume is just like you can tell it's very limited, it's crowded, you can't get a lot of actors on there. I think for Star Wars, that's a problem. And I think for a show, I know it's controversial to say, but for a show like Andor, one of the things I like about that show is that it actually uses actual sets. They actually, build, they go on location, they go, albeit though it can't be too expensive, but at least they actually utilize the budget a little more better. The quality and the way the show goes around, sure, that's a different topic for a different time, but at least they actually utilize their budget, and it feels sort of like movie quality. Unlike some of these Marvel shows and most of these other Star Wars shows that use the volume, it's like you don't have to use volume for every single thing. You can balance both. I don't think you don't have to exclusively chain yourself to one way or the other. Another point I have here, and this is the last one, which is again the story feels rushed. This is a problem for every single one of these Disney Plus shows, Marvel, Star Wars. And look, again, as someone who very much so liked Ahsoka, I mean, it's flawed. And one of the flaws was the ending of the show felt very rushed. The Thrawn stuff was rushed. It just felt like it's almost like the show was like sped up ×2. And it's like, man, we're already finished now. It's like, that was pretty quick. The Marvel shows in particular feel like that. The Hawkeye show felt like that. The Moon Knight, to a certain extent, felt like that. It felt very, very rushed. They may start out pretty good. That's the thing too. Most of these shows, particularly Marvel, they actually start out pretty decently. Moon Knight started out really, really well. Falcon Winter Soldier, again, started out pretty good. But then when it gets towards the end, it's like what happened? Did these guys just like, did the people behind the scenes like give up or whatever? They did just quit and like, we're just like, oh, well, we're running out of budget, running out of time. You're better, softly put something together. It's like, man, it boggles the mind how much they fumble this and how bad it is. Again, it's shooting this bad. Like, again, this is Disney we're talking. This is a multi-billion-dollar company, all the resources in the world, and they can even put together competent stuff for TV under a streaming service. And again, like I just mentioned, the short seasons, the budget not being allocated properly, using B-level characters, especially of Marvel, using the volume and green screen a little bit too much for Star Wars in particular, and then the story just feels rushed. Those are the main problems that I've noticed. Other folks have noticed, and it's not just me saying it. It's like everyone kind of feels that way. And I still have to say that, and saying that this is a disaster and it's been like this forever doesn't have to be. I think, especially with Marvel, I think there will be changes. I think, especially with Daredevil and the numbers, again, like I said Tuesday, I think as a fan, you shouldn't worry about it. Now, as an executive stakeholder, obviously you should. I firmly believe with the numbers with Andor, the numbers of Daredevil and some of these other implications, especially with Marvel proper, you're going to see some changes. I think you will see, instead of putting out 3 or plus shows a year, I think you're going to see that number dwindle a little bit, which will hopefully give these production schedules a time to breathe a little bit and just not overwork themselves. Because I think that's another problem too. It feels like they're overworking themselves. There's too many things going on, and hopefully, at least from the Marvel standpoint, because again, I think for the most part, I actually think the Star Wars shows collectively have been a lot better than the Marvel stuff. Now, that's not saying a whole lot, because most of the Star Wars shows have not been like elite tier. Like Mandalorian's good, Ahsoka's good, Bad Batch is good, Clone Wars season 7's good. Like outside of that, and I guess Andor to a certain extent. I know that's controversial to say, and I grant you there's flaws in that show too. But it's like besides those 3 or 4 shows I just mentioned, all the rest of them are not good either. So it's not saying a whole lot. But Marvel's rap sheet for their Disney Plus shows, it's way worse. They have way more misses than wins for them, and I don't know. Like I just said, again, it doesn't have to be this hard. Again, you're not building the Burj Khalifa, you're not building the World Trade Center, you're not building the Petronas Towers. It's not like you're building a massive building. It's not confusing. You're not building a massive skyscraper. It's not like you're, I don't know. Like I said, it just boggles the mind how hard this is for them to get this right. Again, it doesn't have to always be like this. I would reasonably assume there will be changes coming, but my goodness, I'm trying to stay calm here. I'm trying to be reasonable, but ever since, again, this platform's been around for almost half a decade now. It was launched fall of 2019. So like that's when it's like to imagine how long that was. That's when Joe Burrow was playing quarterback for LSU and Justin Fields is still at Ohio State. So that's how long it's been. But that Disney Plus problem, it's an issue, and it also hurts. It doesn't make you feel better. Now you have a studio like Amazon, with and Invincible, and you have The Boys, and you have Netflix, which has been consistently pretty good with their stuff, Stranger Things and whatnot. They're doing pretty well. I mean, I haven't watched a lot of Invincible. I probably should have watched it at some point. Do have an Amazon Prime account, mainly for buying stuff in NFL as an NFL fan. But even I've heard, the Invincible, season 2 notwithstanding, season 3 for Invincible is pretty good, and it's really good quality, even better than most of what Star Wars and Marvel has been putting out lately. So that also is more insult to the wound here that a much smaller studio on Amazon is putting out better content than you are, with again Invincible and The Boys. So I don't know. Like I said, it just boggles the mind how they fumble this, and not just them too. I think to a certain extent HBO Max, wherever it's called now, has had the same issue too. Like outside of Peacemaker and Penguin, some of their original content's been bad too. So that's a whole other issue with them. But yeah, that's my little spiel there on Disney Plus. And look, I don't hate the product. Again, I really wish it could have been a lot better, but it's not. And look, they can still get this going on the right track. They can make some changes, especially on the Marvel side in particular. But I don't know. It's not been the success they thought it was. And I think initially with The Mandalorian and Clone Wars season 7, with first season of Loki and some other early Marvel shows, certainly I think WandaVision, it felt like, okay, we're moving in the right direction. It's not perfect, but we're getting there. But it's almost nothing really changed at all, and it's like they're just doing the same thing. Again, there's some hits, particularly with Star Wars, but there's a lot more misses, especially with Marvel TV side. But yeah, very very gloomy stuff there from the Disney Plus side of things. So I just figured I should do the segment here and to get off my chest. But I've been wanting to do it for a while, but now since we're in the spring now, and I can officially actually do that topic. I'm gonna get some more water here. That segment went for pretty long. I'm gonna get some water here. We'll do the final predictions versus reality, which is the Buccaneers. Then we will finally get out of here. So get some water real quick, and then we'll be right back. Okay, I was just checking, actually, speaking of the severe weather situation that's going to be taking place this weekend, the page actually did the SBCs. I have it open still for the outlook for Saturday, and it did update, and we'll update on this when I'm recording this at what is it now, 3:40 Eastern time, to be 2:40 Central. The SBC outlook has been expanded a little bit, so now the moderate risk was originally closer to the Gulf Coast, and it still is, but now it's been pulled into more into North Alabama now. So they have moved it around. Now, frankly, as someone's been following this for a long time, as a fan of atmospheric science, when you're dealing with a pretty high impact event like this, any severe weather event in the past, it doesn't matter. The colors at this point, like the graphical stuff, the outlooks, it's important, but especially when you introduce, like, I think they probably will, the high risk. That's not guaranteed or anything. I think the moderate risk is probably fine, but they may, just to get people more of their attention, probably will do a high risk, the folks out in Norman. When I might get introduced, the colors at that point doesn't matter. If you're in the enhanced, moderate, or the high, the colors and the terminology, it really doesn't matter. It just, you gotta be careful. Just be prepared for what's coming. Make sure you have your plan to go just in case. Of course, don't be in a freaking mobile home. And look, mobile homes are good manufacturing, cheap housing. They're very important to have. They serve a purpose. But for a high impact weather event, tornadoes or hurricanes or strong winds, you can't stay in those. Please do not stay in a mobile home. That in the car is the worst thing you could possibly be in for a high impact weather event, particularly again hurricanes and tornadoes. You have to get out. You have to find something else more stable, maybe a shelter, a gas station, maybe like a Buc-ee's or something that's open 24/7. You just can't do that. And I hope that folks are taking this seriously, and hopefully they are. But this is, like I said, they have expanded that moderate risk. They probably will go high risk. Again, personally, I would probably just stick with the moderate risk. I think that's appropriate. But just from probably if the SBC guys are thinking this way, if they want to get more attention on this and want to probably emphasize that people do pay attention, they probably will go high risk. But personally, for me, I think the moderate's probably fine. I don't know. I wouldn't go to the high risk, but they probably will go it. But that's a whole other discussion too of the risk categories, what they really mean. Because like moderate sounds not as bad as enhanced. It's almost like it's flipped a little bit, but whatever. It's they did expand it a little bit. It's a very minor change, but whatever. Like I said, the colors and whatnot don't really matter, because the whole state of Mississippi, Alabama, and most of Georgia and Tennessee and Louisiana are involved in this. So the risk categories don't really matter now. It's just, you gotta be prepared for what's coming. You gotta make sure you have a plan of your supplies. You should have really been doing that when they put out the day 7 and 6 outlook days ago, back this past weekend. So little update there, but figured to be able to end the show with, again, our final pictures versus reality is us going back to this past summer when we did our projections and for both college and the Buccaneers. And like I mentioned, we could have kept doing this segment, but I think it needs to end at some point, or else we'd be doing this until May, it feels like. So we're ending it here with the Buccaneers. Our best case scenario for them was 10-7 last year. Again, they had up until their first their only bye week, is there only one. Up until their bye week, which was in week before Thanksgiving, they had the toughest schedule in the NFL. I don't care what you say; it was the toughest schedule in the NFL. I don't know what to say. They had the Eagles, who eventually would win the Super Bowl. Falcons twice, Ravens, Chiefs, 49ers, Broncos, Lions, and Commanders. That is pretty tough, and that was really difficult for them to navigate that with not having multiple losses. Thankfully, I talked and burped there. It's kind of a weird effect. Fortunately, it's not a video, so I can't edit that out because we're live. So, if you guys are listening to this, if you're listening to this live or on the playback or on the podcast feed, just heard me try to talk and burp at the same time. After the bye week, the schedule got a little more lighter, and I think their final record kind of projects that. So our best case scenario for them was 10-7. Worst case, again, just because how tough that schedule was early on, and again the whole clip watch factor, and could this thing unravel? Worst case scenario, at least what I had it as, was 4-13. Again, that was worst case scenario. The reasonable scenario was similar to the year before. Their actual record was 9-8. Again, it was a very tough, heavy loaded front part of the schedule. The back side of it was more lighter. So that's why I sort of went with the 9-8 solution. It turns out that they did exactly what the best case scenario was, 10-7. They started out, Tampa did pretty well. Bit of a recap, I guess. Actually beat some pretty good teams. Again, they beat the Lions on the road, which I thought was a really, really, really good win. Beat the Commanders week 1. Of course, they followed that with a loss to the Broncos. Who called that correctly? I did. I was very concerned about that game. Beat the Eagles. They had some pretty impressive wins here, but had some, not embarrassing losses like the Falcons or whatever. They were a fairly decent team. Baltimore, no. Like, no one's shedding a tear about that. Chiefs, same thing, ditto. 49ers, at the time, it didn't seem bad, but I guess that's probably the worst loss of all those. But as expected, the back half of the season was a lot lighter. Took care of the Giants, Panthers in overtime, a fun game. Raiders struggled in. Chargers, a bit of a surprise there. The Cowboys, I mean, it's tough. It's on the road at a place where Tampa has not done well historically. So there's no real whatever. Then you took care of the rest of your divisional opponents, and including the game I was at, Saints game. So we had a pretty good read on this team. Fairly good read. Now next year, as you sort of look ahead, now of course the schedule has not been finalized yet. That will of course come in at some point in May, of course after the draft. So we have of course your divisional opponents. That never changes. It's the NFC. It's the NFC West this year. So again, the 49ers at home, thankfully. Play them again. Seahawks on the road, Rams on the road. You get the Cardinals at home. You get the Eagles at home again. So that's 4 times in a row. You get the Lions on the road, 3rd time in a row. So it's 3 years in a row you've had that. This year again, it's every 4 years you play in a AFC division. So this year it's the East, and then after that I believe it's the North. So it'll be Baltimore again. We'll be coming to actually be going to M&T Bank, but whatever. AFC East this year, because you played the West last year. Patriots, Jets at home again 4 years ago. It would have been on the road. Unfortunately, you have to go to the Bills again. That's great. And then you have to go down to Miami for the rivalry game. Instead rivalry there. That should be a lot of fun. I would assume that's probably going to be a high-scoring game. Now there's one home division game for the AFC that's not been, I forget how this works. I believe it is an NFC game, but whatever. There's one game that's not been determined yet. We'll just see who that is. That'll be revealed to us in May. But the away game is the Texans. So that's an opponent that Tampa faced a couple years ago in Baker's first year as Tampa's quarterback. And that was a fun game, too. CJ Stroud's probably biggest win at the time. So, yeah, again, like I mentioned, I think we had a pretty good read on the team last year. Felt pretty confident. And we seemed to be pretty much validated. So, how about that? We were pretty much dead on with the Bucs last year. And that is nail in the coffin for predictions versus reality. This cycle for this spring. Now, next spring we'll obviously bring that back. But, of course, in a couple of months or so in May, we will be starting our record projections. How about that? Again, keep an eye on that severe weather stuff. Again, that starts tomorrow, and then it really picks up on Saturday. Again, I'm keeping you guys in my prayers, thoughts. Most of you in the Midwest and the Southeast on the Saturday, it's going to be rough. Again, it's a moderate risk for, like, the St. Louis, Memphis area near there, Paducah, Kentucky. A large chunk of Illinois is involved. Iowa, adjacent states on tomorrow on Friday. But Saturday looks like it's going to be the big deal. Like, it's bad. Again, like I said, they'll probably end up going higher risk. Again, personally, I think the moderate risk is appropriate. But again, if you want to get people's attention, if you're the SBC, yeah, probably go high risk. I would imagine they introduce that tomorrow, maybe later today. The next outlook. But yeah, tomorrow's going to be rough. I mean, the outlook, by the way, runs until 7 a.m. Saturday. So you're probably wondering, why is like West Alabama involved in a severe weather risk while most of the day should be fine? That's because after midnight, early Saturday morning, a potential band, whatever's left over tomorrow afternoon and evening, will be moving in supposedly Saturday morning. Again, the models have been they've not done a very good job of answering that question, revealing that. To me personally, I feel like the models are sort of underplaying it a little bit. They may be underperforming it a little bit. They may not be grasping it really well. But if that is the case, and it's not going to be a big deal, at least for the storm coverage in the morning, the afternoon is going to be pretty bad, I think. Hopefully it's not. Again, a lot of times at these big events, especially in the deep south, because it's near the Gulf and there's a lot of moisture there. Most of the storms are not, LP supercell storms, which LP stands for low participation, meaning not a lot of rain. They're more HP. The convection could be pretty messy, more sloppy maybe, and that would be good. I would hopefully lessen the threat, but it doesn't look like it. And these might be more of your, classic supercell storms you'd maybe see in like Oklahoma, Nebraska, and Kansas, and Texas. There's also probably a dry line involved. Look, this is not a weather podcast, but look, as someone who's invested in that, someone who's been paying attention to it, look, when I first got into weather, I was like in grade school when I was watching like Reed Timmer and those guys on YouTube in the early days when YouTube was like the wild, wild west, when everything was basically being uploaded on there, up and including some movies. Actually, movies today would be blocked. That's when I first got introduced into this stuff, and I've liked it ever since. But yeah, I'll be keeping an eye on this for you guys. I'll be watching the weather and, of course, the NCAA basketball stuff this weekend. But yeah, it's gonna be rough. Again, starting tomorrow, again, you have some time to prepare. I'm sure everyone's probably going to the store and going to the hardware store and getting some supplies and stuff. But if you haven't done it yet, maybe you're working or whatever, you're listening to this, do it now. You have some time tomorrow, but I think everyone's be going tomorrow morning and afternoon. Especially those of you in the southeast and deep south. But once the evening hits, you're kind of out of luck, and it's gonna be rough there. I know Josh Peavy out there, he's me out there storm chasing. Ryan Hall will be on. That's if you want a YouTuber streamer, I guess, if you're into that stuff. If you prefer more of a national perspective, I guess from a YouTube streamer perspective, Ryan Hall is pretty good at that. Locally, of course, if you're in Central Alabama, of course, as James Spann, he'll be obviously in the city on Saturday. A legend. I've never met him before. I've always wanted to meet him. So hopefully one of these days I might. But yeah, it's going to be rough on Saturday. I'll keep an eye on it. Of course, we'll have a show on Tuesday. So hopefully it's not the doomsday scenario we think it might be, but there's a good chance it might. And the models, again, are certainly indicating that could be on the table, for sure. So until Tuesday, I know we went a little longer than I thought we were going to, but we'll have a show on Tuesday. Again, no show on Sunday or anything. We don't do that. We have 2 shows a week. So until Tuesday, be safe. Stay, especially if you're in the Midwest, Southeast this weekend, starting tomorrow. Of course, we'll have a show on Tuesday. So until then, take care, be safe, and we'll see you guys on Tuesday for the show.